Welcome to Meeple Mentor. I'm Jared, and we're about to play Fury of Dracula. Let's take a look. I'll show you how. Feel free to pause the video as needed to follow along with your copy of the game. I'm covering the latest 4th edition of the game. Make sure to like and subscribe below the video. It helps a lot. Fury of Dracula is set in Europe in 1898. The game is based on Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. Up to 4 players will take the role of 4 vampire hunters trying to track down and kill the elusive Count Dracula. One other player gets to be Dracula and will be spawning vampires, gaining influence in Europe, and otherwise hide from the hunters. This is a 1 versus many deduction game with miniatures on a map, hidden movement, and lots of vampires. Since this is a 1 versus many game, the hunter players will need to talk about their strategy in cards, but in Fury of Dracula, all table talk should be shared information with the Dracula player. And no, you can't leave the room to have secret strategy meetings. The game takes place in a series of rounds going from Hunter's Phase to Dracula Phase. The hunters each take 1 action during the day, then 1 action the following night. When they're done, Dracula must move by playing location cards face down. He may also do other things like play encounter cards, mature vampires, play special power cards, and attack the hunters. The Dracula player can win by gaining 13 influence. The hunter players can collectively win by killing Dracula. The game proceeds round after round until one side accomplishes their goal. Lay out the game board in the center of the table. Place the influence marker on the influence track at 0. Now, place the time marker at the top of the week track on Monday day. 1 player will need to be Dracula. I recommend the person who has the most familiarity with the game to be Dracula, or you could just randomize that. Then, the other players will control the 4 hunters in the game. You can choose or randomize who has what, but no matter the player count, all 4 hunter characters should be in the game. So if there are 3 hunter players, 1 person will control a second hunter. If 2 hunter players, each person will control 2 hunters. And if only 1 person against Dracula, that player controls all 4 hunters. After players have selected which characters they're going to be, have the person playing Dracula sit at the table closest to the game board side, showing Eastern Europe. You'll see the outlines of red cards along the whole length of that side. After the Dracula player has sat down, players should sit clockwise from Dracula in this order based on the hunter they control: Lord Godalming, Dr. Seward, Van Helsing, and Mina Harker. This is the activation order of the hunters, so sitting around the table in this formation helps the game move along quicker, I found. Now everyone should take the corresponding character sheets and miniature figure. Hunters should take the hunter reference card, while Dracula should take the small reference map. The Dracula miniature should sit on the red circle at the beginning of the location trail here. Each hunter has default starting locations recommended for your first game, but the advanced rules let players choose their starting city. So just do whatever you're comfortable with. Lord Godalming starts at the Constanta location on the map, Dr. John Seward starts in Marseille, Mina Harker starts in Brussels, and Van Helsing starts in Amsterdam. Now take all the item cards and shuffle them into a face-down deck. Place it off the board but near to the hunter players. Then take all the event cards and shuffle to form one deck. The event cards will be composed of both hunter and Dracula icons on their backs. Sit this deck near the item deck. The event cards should have the same color on the backs. If they don't, you've got a misprinted copy from the 4th edition's first print run. Head over to WizKids.com to ask for replacements. Also, WizKids have noted this first run incorrectly labeled the hunter's hand limits, so Lord Godalming, Van Helsing, and Mina Harker show a hand limit of 4 on their character boards. However, it should say 3. Dr. Seward is the only one with a hand limit of 4. Again, if that's your copy, WizKids can also send you replacement stickers to go on the boards to fix that. Take the 12 hunter combat cards and separate them into 3 piles of light cards. Set these near the item deck as well. They should be face up. Now let's look at some of Dracula's card setup. These cards are encounter cards. Take all of them to form a draw deck and shuffle it. Set this near the Dracula player. Take all of Dracula's combat cards and create a deck with those. Shuffle it and place it face down next to the encounter deck. Dracula starts with 1 rumor token. Lastly, you have the location cards, which Dracula will be using to move secretly around Europe. Create a deck of them in numerical order for the Dracula player. Some of the backs will be blue, which just indicates that they're sea regions. Now Dracula takes all of his power cards, which he can use instead of a location card. I'll get to that. These are train ticket tokens. Create a pile of them face down and shuffle them up as much as possible, or use an opaque bag for players to be able to draw from. Separate the rest of the tokens and sort them by type into like piles by the board. At this point, the Dracula player should draw 5 cards from the encounter deck to create a starting hand. Dracula must choose his starting location on the map. Never move Dracula's miniature to the location unless revealed. Instead, the Dracula player takes the corresponding location card from the location deck and places it face down on the first spot of the location trail. The card sits right underneath the Dracula miniature and is a visual reminder that this is his current location. Dracula can choose to start anywhere on the map, with the following exceptions. He cannot start in a sea zone, Castle Dracula, or a city where a hunter is starting. Once this is all done, the game is prepared and you're ready to start. The hunters will get the first turn, starting on Monday day. They play through all of the hunter phase, and then Dracula gets a turn and does the Dracula phase. Dracula only takes turns at night. You'll keep track of the day-night cycle on this tracker here on the board. Each hunter will take 1 action during the day in order of their activation number, shown on their character board. They could pass as well, giving up the action. After all 4 hunters have gone, the time moves from day to dusk. Dusk is a special in-between phase between day and night. If hunters are in the same location as Dracula's miniature, they must initiate combat at this point. After resolving combat, during dusk, the Dracula player must remove certain event and encounter tokens that may be present on the board. I'll go more into that later. After dusk comes night. Move the time marker to the next icon clockwise, which is night of that same day. All of the day and night spaces show which day of the week it is, with abbreviated spelling. Now that it's night, hunters still get to go again before Dracula. Each hunter gets to take 1 more action at night, always in activation order. They may not move. However, if they started in a sea location, they may not do anything at all. Once all hunters have completed their action, the Dracula phase begins. Dracula can never pass and must play a card onto the trail. He must either play a location card or power card. The location must be an adjacent location to Dracula's current whereabouts. The card is always played on the furthest left space of the trail, and everything already on the trail moves down to the right once. After Dracula finishes his turn, you'll move on to the Dawn phase. If Dracula is revealed on a location with a hunter, combat is initiated again. After any combat, any Heavenly Host tokens on the board are removed. Also, if any hunters were defeated, they'll spawn back in the game now during dusk at the closest hospital location. When coming back to the board at the hospital, the hunter discards all of their event and item cards and removes all damage, bite tokens, and ticket tokens. Lastly, if the time marker is moving from Sunday night to Monday day, a full week has passed. Place 1 new despair token on one of the 3 spaces in the center of the time track. Additionally, the Dracula player gains 1 more rumor token. These despair tokens represent Dracula's creeping influence in Europe. Dracula gains his Fury of Dracula ability once all 3 have been placed. Some of his combat cards are also affected by how many despair tokens are out. Otherwise, simply move the time marker to the next day. The next round will continue again, starting with the Hunter's phase. Play continues like this until one side wins the game. During the day, each hunter character takes 1 action or passes. Sometimes an effect will cause a hunter to be delayed. If this happens, lay the miniature on its side and end its turn. The next time they would be able to take an action, instead they stand it up and take no other actions. That character is no longer delayed at that point. Players may spend an action to take a train ticket token from the face down supply. Each hunter can hold a maximum of 2 tickets. If they draw a third, they must then discard 1 after collecting it. These ticket tokens are spent to move by rail. Hunters may not reserve a ticket if they're at Castle Dracula. Players can take a movement action to go to an adjacent location. Hunters may only move during the day. Move the miniature on the map to the city or sea zone that you're moving to. The map has large cities, small cities, and sea zones. There are roads and railways connecting cities. The roads are the red lines. Railways can be white or yellow. If a player who is defeated is at a hospital location, they may spend a move action to only move from the hospital to its connected city. Cities that are connected by a road are considered adjacent. In order to use a railway, however, you must spend a train ticket. The front of a ticket token shows colored numbers. Players may choose one of them to use when taking railways. Hunters can use a combination of white or yellow railways up to the number shown on the ticket. If any part of their move includes a yellow railway, they must choose that yellow number in determining the maximum movement possible. Additionally, if the ticket they use does not have a yellow number as an option, they may not use the yellow rail lines. Hunters may choose to move to and from sea locations via cities that have an anchor icon. Once in the sea, they may move to other adjacent sea zones as a move action, crossing the border lines shown. If a hunter starts their turn in a sea zone in the day, they must move. If it's night, they must pass. If a hunter moves to a location that is on Dracula's trail, Dracula must reveal the location card on the trail. There may be encounter cards that Dracula placed there when he visited it. Dracula has the option first to use that encounter card against the player, thereby ambushing them. However, if he does not, he forfeited that chance this turn. Dracula can choose one of the encounter cards at the location to reveal and resolve the card's effect, ignoring the matured effect. After resolved, it is discarded unless otherwise specified. A revealed vampire would initiate combat. If the vampire isn't killed, it stays face up with any damage tokens earned. If the location moved to is the spot where Dracula currently is, he's revealed, and his miniature is placed on the board there. Dracula cannot be revealed while he's on a sea zone. If a hunter is in a location on Dracula's trail with an encounter card, they may take a search action to reveal them all and interact with them. The hunter player will get to decide on the order to resolve them, if they're multiple. Ignore the matured effect on the cards. It's possible they reveal a vampire encounter during the search, and the card will say to fight this vampire. Combat begins between the hunter and vampire in the same way as with Dracula, which I'll cover later. The difference is that the damage tokens are added to the vampire encounter card. Its health value will be shown on the card. The Dracula player may not play his escape cards for vampire until he's played at least 3 combat cards. While in a large city, small city, or hospital location, hunters may take a supply action. You may not take this action while at Castle Dracula. If in a large city or hospital, they take the top item card from the item deck and put it in their hand. If drawing an item card that would put them over the item card hand limit, they must immediately discard down after drawing it. Most of the item cards have a banner on them indicating they must be played during combat. Other item cards will say how they can be used. If taking a supply action at a small city, you will not get an item card. Taking a supply action in a large or small city, you always draw an event card next. If at a hospital, you do not. The event deck is the one with the mix of Hunter and Dracula cards. The back of it shows you what kind of event card it is. How you draw the event card depends on if you took the supply action during the day or during night. During the day, take the top card from the deck. If it's a Hunter event card, the Hunter takes it and keeps it in their hand. If the top card shows a Dracula icon, place it instead face down in a discard pile. Do not draw any more cards. During the night, take an event card from the bottom of the deck. Again, if the card shows the Hunter's icon, they may take it and add it to their hand. However, if it shows a Dracula icon, Dracula gets to take the event card and add it to his hand. Since some event cards activate immediately, whoever took the card should check to see if they should be playing it immediately. Several actions qualify as a special action. Using an item card outside of combat is a special action. Each character has special abilities that they can use as a special action. For example, Van Helsing's ability is to trade event cards with any other hunter anywhere on the board. The trade is done privately without showing the Dracula player. He cannot, however, use this ability to trade anything else, only event cards. And playing an event card from your hand is a special action. The top of the event card's text indicates when it can be played. When using the card, read the text and decide which effect to use. Sometimes these can be ally cards. If played as an ally, place the card on the ally slot on the board. Only one can be there at a time, so discard the previous ally card if there was one. Dracula also has ally cards on some of his event cards. If he plays one on his turn as an ally, it sits face up in front of him. He also can only have one at a time, so the previous ally will be discarded. Hunters may take a rest action, which means they get to recover 1 damage. Just remove a wound token and put it back in the supply. If any hunter characters are in the same city location, they may take the trade action to trade with each other. When trading, hunters can show each other their item cards and ticket tokens privately and exchange them at will. They may not show or share their collected event cards. Taking the trade action is the exception to the free sharing of information between all players. Dracula takes his turn at night after the hunters have finished their night actions. Dracula can never pass and must place a new card on the current location space of the trail. The trail has 6 spaces, with the first one on the left always representing Dracula's current location. Unless Dracula is revealed, his miniature sits on the circle above the first space. Each space is also known as a hideout. Before choosing the card to play on his turn, all hideouts on the trail slide to the right 1 space. If any hideout would slide off the 6th space of the trail, the Dracula player must either choose to mature it or turn it into a lair. I'll come back to that in a bit. The Dracula player moves by secretly choosing a location card from the location deck and places it face down on the first hideout space. He may move to any adjacent location, but may never use railways. Dracula can travel by road or sea, observing the port cities as entry and exit points. You'll notice the sea locations have a blue back to it, so hunter players will be alerted when Dracula's at sea. Additionally, the Castle Dracula location card has a special card back, which also alerts hunters of his location. If Dracula chooses to move there, he heals 5 damage. Whenever Dracula moves from a port city to the sea, he automatically takes 2 damage to his character board. Every movement in the sea gives 1 more damage to Dracula. If Dracula chooses to move to a location currently occupied by a hunter, he's revealed. Flip over the location card and place his miniature on the board at that city. Remember, Dracula can never be revealed when at sea. If any player, Dracula included, finds out that Dracula has made an error, such as moving between 2 cities that aren't connected by road, or he's simply unable to make a legal move when placing a card on the trail, the Dracula player gets penalized. First, Dracula's current location is revealed. Clear all the hideouts on the trail, leaving only the current location. Dracula then takes 5 damage. In addition to playing the location card, Dracula may place an encounter card face down with it, as long as it's not at sea or revealed. After placing an encounter card, Dracula is allowed to also place 1 rumor token if he has one. It can be placed on the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd space of the trail. Rumor tokens have a potential to give extra influence for Dracula. Anytime Dracula has less than 5 encounter cards, he should draw back up to 5. So let me jump back a bit and explain in more detail what happens to the hideout that moves off the board. Dracula chooses to either mature it or make it a lair. To mature the hideout, play any number of the encounter cards on it for its matured effects. Then clear the hideout. The location card will return to the location deck without having to reveal it. If a vampire encounter was matured, resolve its matured effect as well, and then advance the influence track by a number of spaces as indicated on the card. Additionally, if a rumor token was on the hideout when a vampire matures, gain an additional 3 influence on the track. The vampire encounter will also allow the Dracula player to clear specific hideouts on the trail. When clearing a hideout, place the location card back in the deck and discard all encounter cards without resolving their effect. All tokens are put back in the supply. The other option, instead of maturing a hideout, is to turn it into a lair. It cannot be a sea location. There are 3 lair slots on the board where a hideout can sit and be a lair for Dracula. After moving a hideout to a lair space, you may add an encounter card to it. During future turns, Dracula has the option to place one of the lairs on the first trail space to move to it again. You must still be adjacent to it to move there. You can place another encounter card on it now as well. Dracula can clear a lair at any time, but must do so if there are no more encounter cards on it. Finally, Dracula has some special power cards that he can use to mislead and distract the hunter players. Dracula may play one of these to the current location on the trail instead of a location card on his turn for its effect. Unless specified, the power card is revealed when played. There are 5 to choose from and are available to Dracula from the beginning of the game. They have no effect when matured, but come back to Dracula to use again. The feed card lets Dracula recover up to 3 damage. The Dark Call card lets Dracula take 2 damage to draw 5 encounter cards. There's no limit to the number of encounter cards he can hold. The Wolf Form power card lets Dracula move to a location up to 2 cities away from his current location by road. He should place the new location card face down with the Wolf Form card on the trail. However, using this power gives Dracula 1 damage. One benefit of using this is he can pass through a city a hunter may be at, without having to reveal himself. Dracula's Hide power card is unique, as it has the same card back as the location cards. By placing it, hunters are fooled into thinking he moved, but actually stayed put. After placing the Hide card, he should add an encounter card face down on it. This is the Misdirect card. Playing this allows Dracula to clear a hideout on the trail. Then, place the Misdirect card on the spot the hideout previously was. He cannot clear a hideout that had a power card, Castle Dracula, C location, his current location, or a location where his Hide power card is. After clearing the hideout and placing the card there, Dracula now gets to place another card on the first space of the trail as normal. The new card could also be a power card. Sometimes certain event and encounter cards will place special tokens on the game board. These are Bats tokens. These are put under a hunter's miniature and stick with them as they move. Dracula can choose to move this hunter to an adjacent city on their next action, and then remove the Bats token. These are Consecrated Ground tokens and Heavenly Host tokens. If either of these are on a location on the board that is on Dracula's trail, reveal the location and encounters on it. Dracula may not enter locations with these tokens on them. If Dracula was already at that location when it was placed, he must move to a new location on his next turn. The only difference between the two is that Heavenly Host tokens are always removed at dawn. These are Fog tokens. If a hunter is in a city with a Fog token, they may not search. Also, hunters cannot move into, leave, or go through a city with a Fog token. Additionally, Dracula is allowed to avoid combat at these foggy locations. At the end of each dusk phase, 1 Fog token is removed from each city that has at least 1. These are Roadblock tokens. One side blocks roads, the other railways. Hunters cannot move through roads or railways that are blocked. At the end of each dusk phase, Dracula must remove 1 Roadblock token from the board. These are Storm tokens. These are placed in C-zones. Hunters cannot move into or through a C-zone with a Storm token. At the end of each dusk phase, Dracula must remove 1 Storm token from the board. If a hunter ends their movement on a city that corresponds to a location card on the trail, Dracula must reveal the location card by flipping it face up. The location card will stay face up until it falls off the trail or otherwise is removed. Keep the encounter cards face down by default. However, Dracula can choose to ambush the hunter immediately after they move to the revealed city. To ambush, he chooses one of the encounter cards on the hideout and reveals it and resolves its effects, ignoring the matured effect. If choosing not to ambush, the encounter cards remain face down until either another hunter ends their movement there, giving Dracula another ambush opportunity, or a hunter takes the search action at that city. By searching, the hunter reveals all the encounter cards and resolves all of them in the order of their choosing. Again, ignore the matured effects. If a hunter ends their movement on the city where Dracula is located, or if Dracula moves to a city with a hunter, Dracula is revealed. Place Dracula's miniature on the map at that location. Remember, Dracula cannot be revealed in a C-zone. During dawn and dusk, if Dracula and a hunter share a location, initiate combat. Combat only ever happens during dawn or dusk. Before starting combat, the hunter players take 1 dodge, punch, and escape card from the combat card piles. Add these to their collection of item cards. They do not count against their hand limit. The Dracula player should shuffle his combat deck and draw 5 cards. First, each player chooses a card to use and places it face down in front of him. Hunters have the choice to play an item or basic combat card. The only item cards hunters can play are those with a red combat banner on them. The 3 basic combat cards have a yellow banner. Then, reveal both cards. Check the icons on the cards played. If the icon on Dracula's card matches a combat icon on the hunter's banner, the hunter cancels the effect of Dracula's card. If canceled, flip it over and leave it on the table for the rest of combat. If Dracula's card isn't canceled, he resolves the card's effects. Then flip the card face down and leave it on the table for the duration of combat. If Dracula did not cancel the hunter's card, then resolve any effects of the hunter's played card. It stays face up on the table. Then, if Dracula has less than 5 combat cards, he should draw 1 more combat card. Starting after the first round, the hunter player will be allowed to pick up the combat card used in the previous round. It goes back to their hand and can be played again. Any damage given to hunters or Dracula are represented by damage tokens, which are placed on their character board. If the damage tokens equal or exceed their health value, they are defeated. If Dracula is defeated, the hunters win. If Dracula successfully bites a hunter, place a bite token on the hunter's bite space on their character board. If taking a bite, but there are no bite spaces left, the hunter is defeated. While a hunter has 1 or more bite tokens on them, they are considered weakened. Weakened hunters must keep 1 event card and 1 item card revealed face up. If a hunter is defeated, remove their miniature from the board and advance the influence track 2 spaces, +1 per despair token on the board. During the next dawn phase, that hunter recovers all his health and is placed at the closest hospital to where he died. The hunter discards all their event and item cards, damage, bite, and train ticket tokens back to the token pools. Combat will continue round after round like this until one of the following happens. Dracula has played his 6th combat card and finished the combat round. Dracula advances to the 13th space on the influence track and wins. Dracula is defeated by taking enough damage to die, giving the hunter players the win. All hunters involved in the combat have been bitten, defeated, or have escaped, or Dracula satisfied his pride ability and plays and resolves escape as bat or escape as mist. Any of these will end the combat. To handle multiple hunters in the combat, each hunter chooses a card to play. Before cards are revealed, Dracula chooses 1 hunter to be the engaged hunter. That hunter alone can block Dracula's combat card, and that hunter is the one who is affected by Dracula's combat card effects. Then all the rest of the hunter's cards are resolved against Dracula. Once combat is over, hunters place the basic combat cards back in their piles next to the board. Dracula should shuffle all played cards back into his combat deck. If he escaped, place his figure back on the red circle spot above the first space on the trail. Dracula will win the game if he advances to 13 on the influence track. There are several ways to gain influence. Maturing a vampire encounter will gain influence based on the number shown on the card, +3 if a rumor token was on it. During combat, if Dracula resolves his Fangs card against a hunter, he gains 1 influence. And defeating a hunter advances the influence track by 2, +1 for each despair token on the time track. If the hunters have defeated Dracula by putting the 15th damage token on his character board, they win. And that's everything you need to know to play Fury of Dracula. Keep the rulebook handy and check BoardGameGeek.com for FAQs and extra content. Check the video description for links to Big Viking mats, Board Game Geek, Top Shelf Gamer for token upgrades, SleeveKings.com for a 10% off coupon on card sleeves, and Mr. Meeple t-shirts for cool board gaming shirts. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you found this teaching helpful. Stick around to watch another Learn to Play video. And remember, teach when you can, but always be learning. See you next time.